I know Trump is in trouble, and this will please his detractors, but here's the embodiment of something deeper in our culture that won't disappear overnight. Now, you might remember a show in the 90s called Hermans Head, where a magazine writer had his psychological drives such as intelligence, fear, lust, all depicted. Now, this is the most entertaining character from that show, titled Animal, depicting Herman's most primitive instincts. The more recent Pixar movie, Inside Out, was quite similar. It had various characters showing little girls competing drives. One of the reasons the mainstream media was so terrible in predicting Trump's rise is that they weren't considering mass psychology. Now, the economist Keynes called it animal spirits. Freud, he called it the id, the force of our unconscious instincts grounded in fear, aggression, sexuality. Trump embodies it in his unpredictability, his ability to enrage and disrupt. Now, he was helped by his opponents, mainly on the left. In psychological terms, they could be seen as the workings of the superego, the annoying goody two-shoes voice always telling us what is moral. I always hear mine if I want some fried chicken or think about, start looking at attractive women. Now, Hillary Clinton embodied this oversensitive goody two-shoes woman most perfectly. Have a look at this speech, infamous speech, where she calls Trump supporters deplorable.
You can put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables.
She's like the headmistress disciplining the naughty boys. She's the superego who intrudes with do's and don'ts, commands, anxieties. The Trumpian id deals in our suspicions, our resentments. His victories is a pointer to how repressed Western debate had become, particularly around issues like Islamic extremism, where leaders went to farcical lengths to minimise offence to Muslims. Now, gender's important here. Part of the last half century was about diluting traditional masculinity, which was seen as primitive, particularly for progressives. The plan was to make us all more feminine and therefore civilised. The modern left, in shifting away from working class men and focusing on professionals and minority groups, viewed traditional masculinity as predatory. Trump's populism and aggression is the perfect foil. Now, his detractors see his victory as one for toxic masculinity. Leading radical feminist Ann Summers in Australia has written about how his female supporters have unconsciously accepted misogyny. They don't even know it. Perhaps it's better seen as a blow for ordinary maleness, stigmatised as a pathology to be diluted. The leftist movements towards gender neutrality were in part ways to feminise public spaces and work through stealth. When transgender bathrooms become a big cause for celebration, as it did for urban hipsters, you can see why Trump's sexual aggression in all his imperfect glory was understandable as attractive. Now, whether Trump's victory translates into better outcomes for men, say in family court or suicide, remains to be seen. Much like any other issue, nobody really knows what the administration will do. Leaders of the men's movement in America are pleased their views aren't fringe anymore, but a bit circumspect about whether it'll translate into better outcomes. But one thing's for sure, that the left's overreach in the gender wars, exposing progressive foundations in a gendered prejudice, have well and truly been pricked by the id, the animal spirits of Western civilization. If you like this video, subscribe to Rebel Media to get more exciting content that you will not get in the mainstream media.